those other speakers that we choose to have join us and tell us a little bit about what's going on here in the city of Muskego. I do have some things I need to mention ahead of that's happening. First, I'd really like to acknowledge our partner sponsors of the Chamber, who are annual sponsors, because they help make these kind of events happen. So if you are here and you represent this business, could you stand, please? And at the end of the list, we will give an applause. Impro is one of our platinum sponsors. Callan Construction is a gold sponsor. The next few are silver sponsors: Advanced Physical Therapy, North Shore Bank, Tri-Town Heating and Air Conditioning. And then we have bronze sponsors: Citizens Bank, Graphic Innovations, Muskego Apostolic Tabernacle, Muskego Tire and Auto, Outlook Management Group, Princeton Club, and Waukesha State Bank. And then we have our copper level sponsors: American Family Insurance, that's Margaret Mall's agency, Anytime Fitness, Bevzik Verbeek Funeral Home, Brew City Accounting and Tax, Glinda E. Holmes CPA, Indian Motorcycle of Metro Milwaukee, Max A. Sass and Sons Funeral Home, Thrive at Muskego Lakes Group, and The View at Town Center. And if you could give them all a big applause, they help create these kind of events for our city. And I really appreciate each and every one of them. Throughout the year, they are the people putting in time and effort and resources so that we can provide both business and community events. And then, being the state of the city, I would like to acknowledge the several elected officials that we have here. Senator Bradley was not able to be with us, but State Representative Chuck Wickers is. The mayor, Rick Pafalski, is going to be speaking in a few minutes. Judge Shelley Grogan is here. Alderman John Englehart from District 5 is here. School Board President Chris Buckmaster. And School Superintendent Dr. Kelly Thompson is here. Now, I want to make sure, did someone sneak in that I didn't know that is an elected official? Okay, just making sure. Yeah, well, we'll get there in a minute. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I always forget this. I apologize, Keith. I always think of you as our chamber president and forget that he is the Waukesha County Supervisor here, so one of them. Every year I do that to you, I'm sorry. And with that, I would like to also introduce our executive board of the Chamber of Commerce. So Keith Hammett from Muskego Tire is our president right now. Rob Shue from Indian Motorcycle is our vice president. Stephen Shelley from Brew City Accounting is our secretary. And then I have Amy Helminski from Advanced Physical Therapy is one of our board members. Cindy Hopp from Steepleview is one of our board members. Did I miss anybody? No, okay. Thank you very much for coming, and I appreciate all the work these people put in. I'd like to let Mr. Hammett say a couple words to everyone. Excuse me.
No, I'm not going to help. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for taking the time and coming out this morning. On behalf of the Chamber, we really want to like to say thank you. Should be interesting. Be nice this morning here. We get to hear from Officer Dietrich this morning. I get to see what's going on, I guess. And Mayor Rick's got some nice things for the city. But I'm not a guy that like to stand and talk a lot, so I just want to say thank you for everybody for taking the time and coming out this morning.
And with that, we're going to ask the mayor to come on up and read the state of the city address to us. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. You should want to get the technical stuff up on here first. A little too formal standing in front of a thing. Plus, I can hide behind this table a little easier than I can that little skinny microphone stand. So, 2020. Does anyone miss it? Well, 2021's kind of starting off where we left off, but at least we see some light at the end of the tunnel with vaccines coming out and you know, more the amount of people that are testing positive seems to be on a little bit on a downward trend. And you know, I want to congratulate our schools for what they've done. They celebrated their 100th day of school this week. I don't know if any of you saw the video on Facebook, but they put together this congratulations for their staff, and they've done a great job. So I want to congratulate you guys on that. You know, when I was asked to speak today on State of the City, you know, there's really no instructions on what to do, you know. So I'm going to kind of make it a little bit of a conversation. If you have immediate questions on something, feel free to just raise your hand and we'll answer that as we go along. Otherwise, I'll take some questions at the end. So there's nothing like getting elected during a pandemic. You know, there's good news and bad news with that. The bad news is, you know, there's no manual on how to operate city government or anything during a pandemic. The good news is there's no manual or operation mode on how to operate during a pandemic, so no one expects you to do anything in a certain way anyway. So, so be patient with me, and you know, we'll walk our way through this today, and you know, hopefully we'll get you up to speed on what's going on in Muskego and where we're at, and you'll have a better feel for you know, what our plans are going forward and what we've done. So we'll start with where we are from a financial standpoint, the city. 2020 was actually a pretty good year for the city from a financial standpoint. We ended up with about a $200,000 surplus at the end of the year. Muskego has got good and bad things. Our sources of revenue, unlike most cities, is very one-sided. Almost all of our revenue that we get to operate comes from property taxes. You know, during last year, that turned into be a godsend because I'll use Brookfield, for example. They built a new convention center, opened up a TIF district or a TID district, and they ended up having to levy this year because they were going to pay for that through hotel taxes. Well, we don't have any hotels, so we're not depending on that revenue. So when that revenue is not there, we're not missing it. So it turned out to be a good thing for us from that standpoint. Long term, definitely something I would like to see is more diverse sources of revenue than always depending on property taxes, which are paid for obviously by business owners and homeowners. So something to look forward down the year, but that turned into a good thing last year. So like I said, we ended up with about a $200,000 surplus last year. We get about $7.5 million in fund balance. Our tax rate currently is, for the city portion of your taxes, is $4.55 per thousand of assessed value. Now, how's that compare? Well, New Berlin, their city portion of the taxes is $5.14. Brookfield is $5.74, and Waukesha is $10.44. So you're really getting a bargain here, even from a business standpoint. It's one of the things that we point out to when businesses want to move here. You know, if you're looking at Franklin versus here, or even New Berlin and Brookfield, if you're going to be owning and even leasing a building, because your leases are everything's based on cost, it's a much better deal to be here. From a home standpoint, new homes going up in Franklin and new homes going up on our east side of Muskego, you know, they're falling in that $450,000, $500,000 range. Well, there's a substantial, I mean, thousands of dollars a year difference in property taxes between the two communities, and our services are just as good as anywhere else for the most part. So, really, we have a good system going here. Last summer, we refinanced some debt, took advantage of some low interest rates. We saved about $200,000 on that refinance alone. This year, we're looking at doing another refi that will save us just under $1 million in finance. So we're taking advantage of some of the good interest rates out there. Our current equalized value for the city is $3.5 billion with a B. That's about a 5% increase over the year before. And when you're in the billions, every percent is a sizable amount of property value. Moody's rating service has our credit listed as very strong. We're above average for cities, American cities, with a AA2 rating. I think the average is AA3. This year, in 2021, we plan to close out 2 different TIF districts, which will add more tax base to the community. They're smaller TIF districts. One is the Test Corners area, number of years ago, we put in a we extended water service down there, so we created a TIF for that. And then the area around the old Parkland Mall, not the Parkland Mall itself, but the businesses around that is another TIF that will be closing out. So that'll add more tax base to the community. It'll also distribute about $1.8 million back to the different taxing entities. So there's actually a surplus in that fund. So once we close it out, the money that's left gets distributed back to the different taxing entities. I see the school district looking over there like, ooh, we're going to be getting a check. So yes, you will be. And then finally, from a financial standpoint, in 2020, we negotiated and finished negotiating a 3-year contract with our police union. So we're good with them until 2022. Library has done a great job of adapting during COVID. Like all the businesses around, they were shut down initially, and they found a way to still service the community through like a drive-up service. About 3,000 patrons had taken advantage of that during that time. Since then, they've opened up their doors. They do offer a number of things virtually as well. One of the things they offer is a virtual online tutoring service. So if you have children that need some tutoring, you check out the library. They do have some services there. They even have a tutoring module on there that teaches you how to play chess. So if you want to pick up a new hobby, there's something to do there as well. And they've also, the library is going to have some refresh interior work done this year. So I believe they're doing some carpeting and some other things. So if you haven't been to the library lately, stop in and see what's all going on there. Planning and development engineering. We've had strong growth in single family and 2-family developments just based on the number of certified survey maps that have been getting approved lately. We are running out of land soon, though. I was just talking to Kirk Lenz before the meeting, and there's definitely a pent-up demand for single-family homes. If you're a seller, it's a great thing. If you're a buyer, you know, good luck finding something at this point. But you know, having high demand for our housing stock is always a good thing. Some stats. Value of new home construction last year was at all-time high. The average home that was built, new built, had a value of over $443,000. That's just the average. Many of those homes that were built were well above $500,000, so that adds to all of our property values. The average home value in Muskego is now about $370,000. So now, again, it's one of the largest investments that most families have, and it's good to see that rising. We sold the most homes last year since 2005. We had 375 homes sold, and that's not including foreclosures or anything else. Home improvements. COVID. Everyone cleaned out their closets last year and got rid of all their clutter, and once they saw that, they realized, well, this wall needs to be painted, or I want to redo this. Muskego spent $6.3 million improving their homes last year. So it's a sizable amount. And you know, we're just talking about decks and new kitchens and things like that. So people, well, they took advantage of being home and made them look better. Number of new developments in the last year. Muskego Lakes Estates opened up. The Waters of Lake Danoon opened up. Wilrose Apartments, they opened in 2020, and the third apartment building at the Parkland Town Center, the old Parkland Mall, opened as well as Muskego School Apartments, which is the old Muskego Elementary School. Those opened up. More construction, road construction issues coming up. Things to look forward to. Hillendale is going to be rebuilt this year. We're going to do it in 2 phases. It's a complete rebuild. It's not just a resurface. They're going to be, you know, tearing it out and rebuilding it from the ground up. We're going to do it in a section from Racine Avenue to about Mill Valley School, and then we're going to come in from College and go up to Mill Valley School. Our goal is to keep access to the school open during the whole thing. So that's going to cause some hassles for people that live in that area, but when it's done, it should look nice. The other major disruption that we can all look forward to is the Great Lakes Water Alliance, which is the Waukesha Water Project. So Waukesha's going to be getting their water from Milwaukee. Part of the agreement is they have to return all their wastewater back to the same water basin, which essentially is the river they're going to be dumping it into. That pipe is going to be going through Muskego, starting actually already. They've already started some work on the corner of College and Moreland. You've seen some huge pipes sitting out there. They're going to be directional boring, meaning essentially doing it all underground under the big intersections. But that path is going to go down Moreland, down Durham, North Cape, out to Franklin. So that's going to be going on for a sizable period of time. While they're going to do their best not to have road disruptions and closures, it's inevitable it's going to happen. So there is a public information meeting coming up on where's my notes on that? February 18th. It's virtual, and if you go to GreatLakesWaterAlliance.com, you can get more information, and I believe we have links on our website as well. A couple new restaurants opened up recently. The Local on Hillendale Avenue. Great place if you like pizza. They have some wraps, sandwiches. They don't have burgers, but they have just a great menu. It's the same owners as the Hale House in Hale's Corners. Different menu, but same great service and everything there. Milk Can should be opening soon. You probably noticed the Milk Can food truck around in the last year. They've been such a success that they're actually opening up a brick and mortar store at the old where Arby's used to be in Muskego. They're also opening up another branch in Greendale, downtown Greendale. So we look forward to those both opening soon. Baskin Robbins / Dunkin' Donuts is going to be opening up. They're going to do a standalone building in the Piggly Wiggly parking lot close to the Indian dealership, that side of the parking lot. So it's actually a standalone building. So that construction should start sometime this year. Moving on to Parks and Recreation. After a real slow start because of COVID and trying to figure this out, once we figured it out, people got really busy. They had cabin fever and they took advantage of us being open versus Milwaukee County and Illinois, and all that was shut down. So we had not only demand from our own residents, but we had demand from the outside area. We had more park rentals than we've had in the past years. We've had more tournaments on our ball fields in past years. We brought in more revenue from pay stations at Idle Isle. Those pay stations at Idle Isle for parking and boat launches brought in just under $45,000 last year. As opposed to the year before, we did $13,000. So our parks are being used a lot. What else do we have? We sold 445 boat launch stickers, and revenue up on boat launches was up more than $3,000 from the year before, and that's for Big Muskego, Lake Danoon, and Little Muskego Lake. We also had more summer summer field rentals than we've ever had, and a lot of that, it's like I said, we had baseball teams coming up from Illinois to play up here because they couldn't do it out there. So they're taking advantage of our facilities, and the win for the city is we're getting revenue from that we normally wouldn't get. Speaking of baseball, last night the Common Council approved moving forward with, as part of last year's budget, we're redoing the 3 baseball diamonds at Park Arthur. So that was already planned. We've been looking into options on improving those fields with turf. So it'll be an artificial playing surface. And the advantage of that is, I'm not sure if you remember a few years ago, there was a big disruption or controversy because the cost for preparing baseball fields for the area baseball teams had gone up substantially. And the city's policy is to pass that cost along to the baseball teams. Well, it was roughly about $165 a game it would cost them to have a field prep. So we've been trying to find alternative ways for them to get that number down. Unfortunately, that's what market is. Actually, market is actually much higher. The 165 or 170 they were paying was actually quite a bit lower than what they pay in other areas. So one of the ways to get around that is by putting in turf. Well, the turf, because the turf essentially is permanent surface, doesn't need to be striped, doesn't need to be groomed. The advantage of that is the baseball teams will be paying, will do a turf fee for teams that use that. Home teams will get a great discount on it, much cheaper than what they would pay to have a traditional field striped. And because this will be the only facility between the Rock and Madison that'll be like that, there's lots of demand from outside teams to come in and pay a premium to use those fields when our teams aren't. We suspect that we will have, just using conservative numbers, we'll not only pay for the turf, but we're going to actually be able to get enough revenue that should exceed what we're actually paying to rebuild all those diamonds, and beyond that, and build a surplus to redo these fields in 8 to 10 years as needed. It's really a different way of paying for putting money into our parks without having to use taxpayer resources. So we're excited that Council sees the value in that, and we'll be moving forward with that at the end of July this year. What else we got going? We've rejuvenated our cooperative efforts with the school district, and we're working on doing some collaboration on some baseball fields out there. So opening it up so the community, not only the high school uses those fields, as the community will have access to them as well. Looking forward to that moving forward. I talked about the schools being opened. Moving on, we do have an election coming up next week, primary election. So this Friday's your last day. You'll be able to vote in person if you want to early vote. Otherwise, next Tuesday, all the elections will be in this hall. It's the only thing on the ballot, I believe, is there's a primary for your state superintendent. I have no idea who's running. I got to dive into that more myself, but it's one of the most undercovered races I've seen going on right now. So hopefully some more information will get out there soon. In closing, as you can see, Muskego is and continues to be a great place to live and work. We've had some of the state's best public and private schools. We have awesome recreational activities with all our athletic fields, trails, and conservation areas. We have great city services. Has anyone noticed how well we do snow here? I mean, we have one of the worst ill-timed snowstorms this year, right before rush hour traffic and busy traffic, and you could get to work without a problem. Even New Berlin and Brookfield, who typically have pretty good service, weren't close to what we had. If you drove through Waukesha County, you could almost tell where the borders were just by snow cover. So Ryan and his crew at Public Works, they just do a great job. We have accessible government, we have reasonable tax rates, but it's not only our residents that make Muskego a great community and our service, but it's the people that work here. There's so many people that work in City Hall that don't live here, but they drive into our community and they serve us every day. And their heart and soul is on serving both the business owners and residents here, and they really do a great job. Coming into office here, I didn't know what to expect. You know, you're coming in as an outsider. You're not, you know, they've had a different boss for the last almost 10 years. They weren't sure what to expect from me. I wasn't sure what to expect from them, and I got to tell you, it's a great staff. I believe we work well together. They probably could tell you other things, but I think that we work well together, and they do a great job of serving our community. My whole thing is service. You know, I don't do this job because I want to be mayor. I want to serve the community, and I want the community to get the best government that they can get. And the people behind me that do, well, not literally behind me, but the people, the staff members that work here really do a great job, and their heart is in their job. And I just want to say thank you to all of them. You'll notice that one area I didn't talk about is public safety, our police department. We do have a couple officers that are going to be talking about that shortly after me, so I'm not going to dive into that too much. But one thing that I do want to talk about is Chief Renz, who runs our police department. Our police department is we have one of the safest communities in the country, not only the state but the country. We get awards and listed on things all the time for that, and that goes from the top down. Well, Chief Renz announced that he's going to be retiring in April after 30 years and 1 day of service to our city. So for one, I want to thank him for all the service that he's done for our community. He's not here, so, but I want to thank him. I also want to say let's keep our Police and Fire Commission in our prayers, because it's their charge to find a replacement for him. So they're going to be beginning that process relatively soon and going through that. And I guess with that, is there any questions I can answer or anything? Well, come on, somebody's got to have some question. All right, well, thank you very much.